all today. I hope you're all doing well, and I thought that I would do another update and discuss a couple of the things that you had mentioned in your comments. So here we are. Okay, so the first thing was that a lot of people wanted to know a little bit about my near-death experience. So basically, it wasn't very elaborate. It wasn't like a lot of other people that I've heard from about theirs. It wasn't, huge and, absolutely profound or anything. But there was a couple of things that were interesting. And one of those things was that it was very much similar to a lot of other people that have had near-death experiences, and so I thought that was interesting. And they have never been able to explain it in terms of, the drugs that people might have been on before they died, or the condition of the brain as people are dying. It's never been able to be explained properly, and they've done research on it. I've read some of the research papers, and there's just no explanation so far. So I kind of do actually believe that near-death experiences do happen, and they do often have a similar way of manifesting. So for me, like I said, it wasn't all that elaborate. It was very simple. And I remember a dream that I was having before the near-death experience, and I won't go into that, but when when the near-death experience started, I felt like I was up in some other realm, and when I was there, I met this being. I'd have no idea if it was a male or a female. I don't even really believe that there's kind of a God in that kind of sense, but just a being, and they welcomed me. It was an extremely welcoming environment that I was in. And when I was there and met this being, I remember them saying to me, you can't stay, it's not your time, you have to go back, but for the moment you can stay as long as you need to ask any questions that you want to have the answers to. And apparently I was there for a while. I mean, I was in the coma for a month, which was a lot longer than they thought I should be. They thought that I should be waking a lot earlier than a month. But, so yes, apparently I asked I asked a lot of questions, and I don't remember the answers to those, but I do remember feeling an incredible sense of peace and calm and just pure love surrounding me the whole time that I was there, and just such a welcoming sort of environment that it was. And so yeah, I stayed and asked my questions, and at some point after I had done that, I was drawn back into my body and eventually woke up. When I eventually woke from the coma, everything felt extremely strange, and that was when I asked my parents, how did I get here? I don't understand. I don't understand what has happened, why I'm in a hospital, and I had a trachea. Everything was so strange and unfamiliar. Even using my phone, I couldn't even use my phone at first, because swiping the screen and tapping keys just felt so foreign. I wasn't able to do it at first, and then I gradually got around to becoming better at doing that, and it's all fine now. But yeah, that was the first couple of weeks, and And also during that first couple of weeks, I also, because I couldn't speak, because I had a trachea in and I wouldn't have survived without the trachea, I had to write notes to people. Now, unbelievably, I couldn't even write properly. I knew what I was trying to write down, but I couldn't even write properly. You could barely read my writing. And then it took me a long time to write anything down. And sometimes the staff used to communicate with me through signs that they'd made and asking me how I was feeling. Did I need my trachea suctioned? Because I sometimes needed that because I couldn't really cough very well. I mean, I was able to make an attempt, but at first it wasn't very easy to cough. So it took a while for me to be able to write properly and so that people could hear me. I was asked about pain a lot because I had once I woke up from the coma, I did have a few days of actual extreme pain in my head that just was absolutely devastating. And so yeah, I was given pain sheets from the staff and had to point out where I sat 1 to 10 with my pain for the day. And yeah, so it was extremely difficult to put all this together. Eventually I did become a lot better at writing notes to people, and I eventually was able to get a new voice box, which was a really strange experience when they did that. They didn't have to put me to sleep or anything. It was simply a matter of taking the trachea out and sticking something into it, and it felt very strange because I could feel a breath coming out of the middle of my throat into the air. So it was really strange. So after that, I did get that done, and then I was able to then I also, once I got the trachea out, I had to try swallowing food so that they could see that I could eat. And I desperately wanted to actually eat because I hated having a tube in my nose, and that was just so traumatic, and it always has been for me when I've in the past with my anorexia. And if I'd had the choice not to have it at all, then I would have said no. But yeah. So I had this I tried eating. I was able to do that and swallow properly. And then, but they still didn't take the tube out. They kept it in, and I had to have it just, mostly at night time, overnight, and then have it taken out in the morning so I could eat the meals. And I had to eat 3 meals, 3 snacks. Pretty standard. Now, also I had a really good doctor in the hospital, and I didn't want to have anything to do with mental health. So I was asked a couple of times, was the way that this happened, the medicine you took to sleep, was it intentional? Were you trying to kill yourself? And I can tell you now that it absolutely was not intentional. I had absolutely no intention of that. I think that it was simply the degree of sickness that I had at the time. And so that was what got me into the coma. I was just so sick. So I didn't want anything to do with the mental health people after I was told that. I was terrified of going into a mental hospital because apparently they're pretty horrible for all adults that go into them, and I didn't want to be put on an involuntary treatment order or anything like that, so I just refused to see them, and my parents also backed me up on that, so I didn't have to continue seeing them at all. So yeah, my doctor, my sort of physician, I guess you might say, she was very, very good, and I saw her a couple of times after I got out of the hospital, because my GP had actually died while I was in there, and that was very, very sad, because I really liked that doctor, and he was extremely good at his job. All his patients liked him, and so yeah, this doctor she was really awesome. And so while I was still in the hospital, I then had to, at first I couldn't even walk when I woke up from the coma, so I was in bed all the time. I had no strength, and I remember one time I actually tried to get up out of bed, and when I did, I ended up on the floor and couldn't get myself back up, so I had to have nurses come in and get me back up. So I had to undergo several weeks of physiotherapy, and so when I did that, that took, it took a long time, but yeah, I gradually got the strength to start walking. At first I was using like a wheelie walker, and then I was finally able to start walking on my own. First it was with someone holding my arm, and then it was just on my own. And that's about the time when they said, you know, I could go home. So I was so relieved. I have just had so many traumas from hospitals in the past, and I just desperately wanted to go home. I desperately wanted to see my baby girl, and so I was finally able to go.
I just wanted to add about, with the near-death experience, the other thing that happened with me is that I no longer had any fear of death, and I basically don't have any fear of anything. It's almost like I feel as though everything happens at the right time and for the right reason, and sometimes I don't know what that reason might be and why it happened when it did, but I sort of feel that there's nothing to worry about. I don't want anyone to be afraid of what happens when they eventually die, because it's so calming and peaceful, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say any different. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Everything is going to be okay. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will post again very soon. Thank you all for watching, and yeah, have a wonderful day.